Gang recruit numbers have increased by more than 50% in the last 5 years, a figure exclusively revealed by Newshub. The numbers from Minister Chris Hipkins' office also reveal that young people are joining in their droves. In 2017, there were more than 5,000 gang members, but that shot up to nearly 8,000 by August this year. Those under the age of 25 also had a significant jump, from 514 members in 2017 to 898 so far this year. Right, to delve into this further, we're joined by gang rehabilitation leader Billy McFarlane. Billy, thank you very much for being with us. Do these numbers surprise you?
No, not at all. Again, I'm not surprised by what's going on in our society. 10 years ago, when I worked in the prison working with the youth up in Nafa prison, I could identify some potential problems for our future communities. One of them was the lack of discipline for our young children at home, our lack of discipline for them at school. So we've got, and I said in 10 years' time, we're going to have a wave of young men coming through into our society that are going to have no discipline at all and going to do whatever they want. So we've got them sticking their fingers up to their parents, we've got them sticking their fingers up to their teachers, we've got them sticking their fingers up to the police and the justice system, and now we've got them sticking their fingers up to the prison officers. They come home, they stick their fingers up to the whole of society because they've never ever had any discipline or had to suffer consequences for their actions. So I think we need to have a really good look now. I know that it's easy to go into to join a gang if your parents can't control you. Your parents can't take your cell phone off you when they ask you. They can't get you to go to school. You go to school, the teachers can't get you to do anything because you've got no discipline. And then how are your parents going to stop you from joining a gang when they can't even do the small things? So I worry about the law that was put in place around our parents disciplining our children, and also no discipline in our schools. And I think the gang thing is just a follow-on. It's a manifestation of some of the problems that are in our society that are existing, and it's going to get worse. But
Billy, you are talking about discipline. We've had another reformed criminal, Adrian Pritchard, saying it's actually about love, that these young people are not getting enough love at home, and that's where this stems from. I mean, you're surely not suggesting that smacking or bringing back that kind of actions would stop people from going into gangs?
So, you know, at Pūwhakamua, we talk about love all the time. It's one of our values, love and kindness. But we have love that sits in the middle of everything, but it's surrounded by tikanga. So there's love in the middle, but there's a whole bunch of rules around the outside, eh? So I think the families that love their children, they don't save them by loving them. Like, we've got a lot of our men that are in our prisons now, and some of them that are in there for horrific crimes were loved when they were young. So it's love is an essential part of this, but love is no good unless there is discipline attached as well.
Billy, one of the figures that we heard from the Minister's office was that in 2017, in terms of under 18s on the gang list, there were 5. Under 18. Today there's 16. So 16 is not a huge number, but that is a big jump from 2017. These are under 18-year-olds in gangs. Does that surprise you?
Yeah. No, because did we count the under 3-year-olds that have been born with gang colours on their cots? Did we count the under 5s that are starting their gang behaviour before they go to school? Or how are we actually counting these statistics? Because, you know, some of these young boys and girls don't have a chance from young children. They're born into gang life, and I mean that's a reflection of our society. So I don't know how we're counting the numbers. Even when we're talking about 7,000 odd gang members, you know, I don't think those figures are anywhere near accurate because we're not counting the wider impact that these gang members have on their families and their friends.
How many of these people will be coming from overseas? How much would you attribute this rise in gang numbers to outsiders, perhaps people coming from Australia?
I think you just, and the Immigration Minister might be able to give us the exact figures of 501s that have been imported into New Zealand, but in my opinion, they're probably taking about 5% of the problem. Like, we can't keep saying that it's the 501s and blaming them for what's going on, because these gang problems were existing before we brought any of them back. It sometimes seems a bit of a smokescreen to me.
Do you think that there has been any impact, just, I know it's fairly recent, but last month, early September, the ability to remove guns, to strip gang members of their assets, has this had any impact in what you're hearing in your work in rehabilitation, in deterring people from going into gangs or making people leave gangs?
So what happens when you show gang members on TV getting all their assets stripped? Our young people get to see these flash cars, these flash bikes. It's actually dangerous to do that on TV. You're showing the ones who haven't seen it, now they get to see it on the news. Like, when you're living in that world, the police take something off you, you go back twice as hard to get back twice as much. So stopping their assets is not going to stop them from operating. The guns, how are we ever going to get rid of guns unless we remove all the guns from New Zealand? I mean, in the underworld, people will just go and take the guns. If they know somebody's got a gun, they'll go there with a gun and hold them up and take their guns. The only way to stop guns is that no one's allowed guns. No guns in New Zealand. Get rid of them altogether and then we won't have any gun problems.
Thank you very much, Gang Rehabilitation Leader Billy McFarlane. I think Ryan has one quick question for you too.
Yeah, Billy, it's great to have you on the show again. Really appreciate you coming on. Can I just ask you, just coming back to the discipline thing for a second, you mentioned that, you know, we changed the law around discipline and we changed the law around the ability of parents to, you know, discipline their children. Obviously, we don't want to see people getting, you know, beaten by their parents. Are you talking about parents feeling that they can't or are too scared to even give them a wee smack or to set some boundaries that have some consequences? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not talking about beating our children, but I mean, are we that naive that we really think that the ones who were beating their children before have stopped now because the law's changed? I mean, those beatings are still going on in our homes. Like, I worry about, like, you know, the Ministry of Education maybe needs to look at what sort of support we can give our teachers, because I went to a high school, I saw the two boys sitting outside the principal's office when they were called to come in. They just went like this to the principal and get effed. I mean, they can't control them. Discipline and abuse are two different things. Maybe we need to teach people how to discipline our children properly. I mean, I've had to learn that myself. You know, I'm still learning how to discipline my children with a bit of love and a bit of consequences in there. It's not an easy thing, and when you're struggling already with some of society's problems, disciplining your children is often not at the top of your list.
Billy, would you say it's discipline or respect? If you have respect for people in that position, if you have respect for someone who's running a business in a dairy or a liquor shop, you know, wouldn't that be the key ingredient that's missing here?
Yeah, I think so, Melissa, and also education, eh? What is discipline and what is respect? I mean, when you raise your children very young and you teach them respect and you discipline them slightly, you do that with a young child. By the time he's 7, 8 years old, or he or her, they're already respectful and they already have discipline. You try leaving that discipline until they're 15 years old and you've got their fist coming up. It's hard then. You've got to do it when we're young, and I mean, for us in Aotearoa, we've got to learn to respect and every other race that comes here too, because, you know, our old Māori proverb says, he aha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. So what is the most important thing in the world? It's people. It doesn't say to us it is Māori people. It just says it is people. To me, that tells me that we need to learn to respect people from other races and people that have differences from us.